Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, if you follow my community tab, I like to post my thoughts and different quotes and statistics, and sometimes I even post a whole entire article from here to there. And recently, today, I posted that there seems to be a rise in Islamophobic articles in the media. I've been noticing this for the last few weeks now. And to be honest with you, for the last 2 years, I hadn't seen a lot of some of the old, anti-Muslim, anti-Islamic tropes in the media that I was used to seeing, even from the time when I was an ex-Muslim, even afterwards or before that time. It seems like COVID changed the direction of the media. There were other boogeymen. There were other boogeymen for Western media to pay attention to and to keep the minds of people focused on. And even during that time, we saw the rise of different media coverage of a new type of terrorist, the white, angry white male evangelical right wing Christian nationalist terrorist, and we've been seeing that even up to a few weeks ago. Because leading up to a few weeks ago, there seemed to be almost as if there were mass shootings every single week. And the majority of these mass shootings were done by that particular group of people. For instance, the mass shooting that took place in northern New York in Buffalo, where over almost 10 black people were assassinated by an 18-year-old individual with an AR-15, and he had body armor and the whole 9 yards. He made a a document and put it online explaining his whole ideology. I'm not going to get into all of that because this is not what the video is about. But now, since the um, the economic hard times are drawing out, and it's not just America. There are economic issues going in Myanmar, in China, and parts of Europe, but especially in here in the United States of America, where I live. There is technically, if you look at the technical definition of a recession, America is in a recession, right? The economy has contracted for, I think, 2 quarters in a row. I think that's the definition. If it contracts for 2 quarters in a row, something like that, that is the technical definition of a recession. So what has the White House what has the White House done? What has Jim Crow Joe Biden done in the media? Well, they've decided to change the definition of recession to avoid telling people there's a recession. Uh, so that doesn't seem to be working. They even brought out monkeypox. Monkeypox. They tried to get people to focus on monkeypox. People don't seem to be getting afraid of monkeypox, and like they were about COVID. It doesn't seem to be capturing the minds of the people. So what else do you have to bring out? It's time to bring out the Islamists. It's time to bring out Islamic terrorism. It's time to start bringing out all the old talking points from 2010 to 2015, 2018 that were so popular, made popular by Christian apologists, by so-called self-appointed jihad experts, and all the like. And there was one particular article that really triggered me that I just saw today. I don't know when this was published. Now I was gonna read some of this article and say what website it was and who the author was. I'm not gonna do all that. You know why? Because the author, he doesn't qualify to be a journalist, in my opinion. Because I read the whole entire article, and it's just old typical anti-Muslim talking points that, if you are aware of these people and their talking points, this is stuff that's been said 1,000 times and by 1,000 different people, and usually in the same exact way. He goes into talking about he's traveling and he meets a Muslim couple. He meets a Muslim couple, and they're a nice couple, but just because they're a nice individual, Muslims, we can't take our eyes off the ball that Islamism and Islamic terrorism is still a thing that we need to worry about. And he goes into the recent attack on the Rushdie individual, Salman Rushdie, aka the original OG ex-Muslim, the original OG ex-Muslim. Walaikum salam, brother. Um, Now, first of all, let me make it clear that whoever did this attack on Rushdie, they of course need to be arrested. They need to be prosecuted, and they need to be punished to the full extent of the law. Um, eh, no matter what the Islamophobes tell you, that is not Islamic. Uh, Islam doesn't teach vigilantism. Islam doesn't teach people to be, uh, uh, what do they call it? Um, Lone. I can't think of the word at the moment, but Islam doesn't teach you to be a vigilante. It doesn't teach you to be a lone wolf. That's the word I was coming up with. It doesn't teach you to go out and be a lone wolf and take law into your hands, or you can inflict punishments and judge. You can inflict harm on people because you think they deserve to be harmed. Yeah, lone wolf. Islam doesn't teach people to engage in conspiracy. And I'm not talking about QAnon conspiracy. I'm talking about actual real conspiracies where people gather together and they plot and plan uh, to do crime and evil things, like the people in Michigan, the Michigan militia, when they were plotting together to harm the governor of Michigan, Whitmer. That's a real conspiracy. But Islam doesn't teach you that. Islam doesn't teach Muslims that. Islam doesn't teach the world to do these type of things. Those things are un-Islamic. So, the person who attacked Rushdie, he's a criminal, and what he did is un-Islamic. He should be arrested. And as far as I understand, he has been arrested. And if he's a lone wolf, so be it. If there was a conspiracy, they need to be arrested also. But you notice how I just discussed earlier, how the Christian nationalist terrorist, when the first of all, when the Christian nationalist inflicts harm and terrorizes and inflicts mass violence on people in the name of their ideology, and usually it's a male. Um, One, people are very slow to ever say terror. No, we got to wait till all the facts come out. We have to wait till all the facts come out before we can say it's terrorism. Now you get that. Also, he was a lone wolf. All these guys seem to be lone wolves. They have all this. They seem to get all this military wear. They do all this plotting. It's never they're not. Even though this guy who was over who did the mass shooting in in Buffalo, North New York, he was online plotting with other people. But we didn't hear anything about tracking down these people that he was online speaking to on 4chan and 8chan and on and Discord or core servers he was talking to. There's no talk of shutting down the shutting down 4chan. I don't know if they can do that, but or shutting down these particular rooms on Discord that he happened to be in. He posted his manifesto on the people he was speaking to, because I mean, obviously those people, they should be complicit in what he did, and many others sort of like him. But it's always they're a lone wolf. They had mental issues. They had a mental health breakdown. Notice how uh, other people can have mental health breakdowns. You would almost think that a Muslim can never have a mental health breakdown. A Muslim can never just be a criminal. They can never just have a mental breakdown. They can never be just crazy. They can never just be a lone wolf. No, when a Muslim commits a crime, it's indicative of how Muslims are. Muslim, period. It does. You could be from Muslims in Malaysia all the way to Brazil, and all points in between. That's how those Muslims are, and that's how that religion is. That's what that religion teaches people to do. That's where that religion. No one can point out exactly where in the Quran and Sunnah this teaching is at, and they try and they struggle very hard, and then a lot of these struggle YouTubers, dusty struggle YouTubers, they spend a lot of time trying to pour over the Quran and Hadith, whether it's authentic Hadith or Daif Hadith, they don't care, trying to prove their ideology. And they desperately, the haters of Muslims and the haters of Islam desperately want ISIS to be the true Muslims. they it's almost like they pray at night before they go to bed. They pray to Jesus, astaghfirullah. They pray and they desperately want ISIS and Al Qaeda and the likes of these people, these innovators, these people with these sectarians, um, these people who are not upon the Sunnah, that they have the real Islam, that they understand the Quran and the Sunnah the correct way, because it accords with their irrational hatred of Al Islam and Muslims. And personally, that's the way I define Islamophobia. Some people, a phobia means a fear, but it's not just a fear. Fear is an emotion, but there's another powerful emotion which is hatred. You can be fearful of something because you believe that something is going to harm you or hurt you, but that's not what Islamophobia is about. Um, Deep down inside, Islamophobes are not afraid that Muslims are going to hurt them, because there are Muslims all around them. If you live in any major city in the Western world, there are Muslims there. When these Islamophobes go to the doctor, uh, Muslims are overrepresented in the medical field. There, for the population of Muslims, where Muslims are overrepresented as being doctors of all stripes, of being nurses of all stripes, nurses, aides of all stripes. So when you go into a Western hospital nowadays, if you're in a major metropolitan area, you're going to see a bunch of Muslims and a bunch of hijabis. So these Islamophobes aren't afraid when they go see Dr. Mohammed. They're not afraid when they go to the ER and Fatima takes their blood pressure. They're not afraid. They're not, they don't start having a panic attack. The the true emotion that drives Islamophobia is hatred. They hate Muslims, and they hate Muslims, and they hate Muslims, and they hate Islam. And it's the same irrational ideology. It's the ideology of white supremacy, if you wanted to be factual. It's the basis of it is the ideology of white supremacy. It's the same thing that fuels anti-black sentiment. It's the same thing that fuels anti-Latino sentiment. But it's very concentrated when it's aimed at Muslims and the Islamic religion. So, and this hatred goes back millennia. This hatred goes back. It goes back to 7-Eleven. It goes back to the conquistadors. It goes back to the reconquest of Spain, and the policies that were put in place to cleanse Spain from any Islamic influence. In fact, to cleanse all of Europe of Islamic influence, because Islam was in Europe. Islam was in Europe. There were Islamic kingdoms in Europe, not just in Spain. Everybody hears about Al Andalus, but it wasn't just Al Andalus. It wasn't just Al Andalus. Do your research. But there was a concerted effort by the Catholic Church to wipe that reality out of the minds of the European, and to create the mythology of the pure white Christian European, and that Europe was Christendom. It was a pure Christian place. Even now that secular humanism has taken control as the dominant ideology, it's still that hatred is still there. It's still a part of the culture. See, human beings, Yes, human beings are individuals. Human beings have their own minds. Human beings make their own decisions. But we're all you can say victims of our culture. Humans are a smart talking animal in certain uh, instances. Just like any other animal, we are communal. The cow follows the other cows. The sheep follow the other sheep. Human beings follow other human beings, and you usually follow the human beings that are closest to you, who are related to you, who are like you. And that's how we get caught up in cultural norms and cultural ideas. Now, hold on to that point, because we're going to come back to that later. So, like I was saying before I got down this rabbit trail, um, I'm seeing a lot of Islamophobic tropes being pushed back out into the media in the last couple of weeks, and this one particular article that I've been reading, he brings out all the stops. So he talks about Salman Rushdie getting stabbed, right? And he links Rushdie being stabbed with the fact that Muslims are a radical people. Islam is a radical, violent, inherently violent religion that preaches hate. And his reasoning for how he came to this conclusion, check it out. His reasoning is because there is no small number of Muslims who deny the Holocaust. So follow the mathematical equation. Rushdie gets stabbed. Because Rushdie gets stabbed, it doesn't matter how many good Muslims there are, because Islam is an inherently radical, extremist, violent religion. And the proof that Islam is a radical, extremist, violent religion is that there's so many Muslims who deny the Holocaust. I don't understand. I don't understand that equation. I don't know how you get from Rushdie to Islam inherently violent, because so many Muslims deny the Holocaust. So if you deny the Holocaust, that means you go around stabbing authors, because denying the Holocaust is a real thing, but it's not an Islamic thing. It's a real thing, but it's not necessarily an Islamic thing. But the author and this conservative website seems to think it's an Islamic thing. It's a Muslim problem, and because it's a Muslim problem and it's an Islamic thing, to him that's proof that justifies why Salman Rushdie got stabbed and why Islam is a radical religion. And he goes on to cite certain articles about surveys being taken in Europe and certain Muslim populations in Europe, saying that they either don't believe the Holocaust happened, or they believe that the numbers of the Holocaust were exaggerated, or and these number of different things. And he talks about how anytime some people try to educate these populations of people, the populations react in a very violent way, or they don't want to hear the truth about the Holocaust. Blah 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 blah. And then somehow he gets from all of that into a point in he starts getting into the infiltrator doctrine, which is that the Muslim immigrants are the agents of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're migrating to the West to set up a new caliphate. And this is just old. This is stuff that we used to repeat on ABN. For anyone who knows my background, this is the same stuff we used to say on ABN, and it's all conflated, poorly thought out, horribly bad reasoning in the name of justifying this man's hatred of Muslims and hatred of Islam. Because denial of the Holocaust, again, is a real thing. I'm not denying that people deny the Holocaust. And I'm not also denying that there are Muslims in the world who deny the Holocaust. What I'm denying, and I'm not just denying it based on my personal opinion, is the reason they deny it is because they're Muslims. See, that's point number one. Nor is it the reason they deny it is because Islam. Somehow Islam teaches people to deny the Holocaust. I haven't seen the portion of the Quran or any portion of the authentic Sunnah that talks about the Holocaust. That doesn't make any sense, right? There's nothing in Al Islam that would teach you to deny an event that happened in history, regardless if it happened to a Jew or happened to anybody else. Um, there's nothing inherent about people, human beings who are Muslim, that would make them deny the Holocaust at larger numbers than other populations. You have to be an out cold racist. You have to be a absolute racist to believe any other thing. If you believe that there are hordes of Muslim immigrants from Arabia, from Africa, and from Pakistan, because they like to call it the Pakis. That's the word they use in the UK. There's something about those Pakis, and there's something about those Arabs, those Arabs, and there's something about those Black Africans. There's something genetic about them that they just deny the Holocaust for whatever reason. This is the mindset of the Islamophobe. That's the part they won't say out loud. That's the part the Islamophobe won't say out loud. What they will say out loud is that Islam is an extremist, violent religion, and one of their proofs is that so many Muslims deny the Holocaust. Now, I don't know how you arrive at the idea that if you deny the Holocaust, you're going to be violent, because a lot of Christians deny the Holocaust. Yes, yeah, a lot of Christians deny the Holocaust. The KKK denies the Holocaust. The skinheads deny the Holocaust. The many people in the Bible Belt of the United States of America who are Christians, Caucasian, evangelical Christians, deny the Holocaust. In fact, if you go back 5 years ago, you can actually find videos on YouTube that you can't find these videos any longer because YouTube has scrubbed most of that content from its. But as little as 5 years ago, you could find content about Holocaust denial on YouTube. You could find documentaries. And do you know who the people? I've seen a couple of documentaries. Do you know who the people who put those documentaries together and who were the quote unquote experts speaking on those documentaries? They weren't Muslims. They weren't Arabs. They weren't Africans. They weren't Pakistanis. They were white evangelical Southern American Christians. Yes. So for years and decades, the face of Holocaust denial were Christians, like Islam. We're Christians, white Southern evangelical Christians. Many of them, yes, they were very racist, very racist. But now, all of a sudden, now with the rise of the Islamophobic industrial complex since after 9/11, now the media is trying to slowly change the narrative to make the Holocaust denial a Muslim thing. So again, for decades, it was a Christian white racist thing, Southern American evangelical thing, Bible Belt thing. They were the ones who were talking about denying the Holocaust. They were the ones who were writing books about denying the Holocaust. And you can go online and still find these books. They were the ones creating documentaries. You can't find those documentaries on YouTube any longer. They were on YouTube 5 years ago, and I bet you if you search through the internet, you can still find those documentaries. Those groups still exist today. Those organizations, those Southern Christian organizations who denied the Holocaust for decades. But now all of a sudden, Islamophobes want the public to believe, no, that's not. Holocaust denial is a Muslim thing. It's an Islamic thing, and it's not a Muslim thing. It's a Muslim thing as far as, yes, I don't deny there are Muslims who deny the Holocaust, but it's certainly not an Islamic thing. You can't tie it to Islam, and that's just not my opinion. Let's go to some sources. Enough of me talking. Let's go to the sources. Now, what's a source that you would accept on this subject? Let me ask you: would you accept the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, as a source? I think you would, if you're smart. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, is a Jewish organization. It was a organization set up to combat anti-Semitism. Let's not get. I'm not going to get into what does anti-Semitism mean and who will be included in anti-Semitism and who's a Semite. We're not getting into all that. But the Anti-Defamation League was set out to educate people and to expose anti-Semites and expose people who go around teaching about the denial of the Holocaust. Now, if you look at the activities of the ADL, they weren't spending. I don't know how long the ADL has been in existence. It's been in existence my whole entire lifetime, and I'm 45 years old. So they didn't spend all their time, making material against Muslims or against the Quran or the Hadith. They were spending most of their time combating right wing Christians with radical racist ideologies who were denying the Holocaust. But again, now we have right wing Zionist Christians who want to change the narrative to make Muslims the face of Holocaust denial. But the ADL does not agree. And they have statistics to back this up. Now, listen to this. This is an article on The Atlantic. The world is full of Holocaust deniers. The Ummah? Does it say the Ummah? Ummah is full of Holocaust deniers? No. It says the world. The world is the full of. A new survey suggests that many Asians, Africans, Middle Easterners, young people, Muslims, and Hindus believe that facts about the genocide have been distorted. This is by Emma Green. Only 54% of the world's population has heard of the Holocaust. Let that sink in for a second. Only 54% of the world's population has heard of the Holocaust. That means a significant large part of the world, not just Muslims, that the Islamophobes want to make us believe. No, the world, majority of the people, not a majority, but a large percentage of the world doesn't know anything about the Holocaust. They never even heard of the Holocaust. This is the most staggering statistic in a new survey by the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, of more than 53,000 people in over 100 countries. So that's the basis of their survey, conducted by First International Resources. But the figure speaks to only those who have heard of it. Only a third of the world's population believe that genocide has been accurately described in historical accounts. Some said they thought the number of people who died has been extravagated. Others said they believe it's a myth. 30% of respondents said it's probably true that Jews still talk too much about what happened to them in the Holocaust, quote unquote. 70 years after the liberation of Auschwitz, 2/3 of the world's population don't know the Holocaust happened or they deny it. So Holocaust denial is a human issue. It's a world issue. Islamophobes. It's a human issue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. I know you I know you pray to Jesus and the Holy Ghost and the Father every night that it would be a Muslim problem so you can justify your hatred of Muslims and your hatred of Islam. But no, it's a world problem. And not because C.L. Edwards says so, not because Muslims on YouTube say so, the ADL says so. Let's continue. These beliefs follow some unexpected patterns too. The Middle East and North Africa had the largest percentage of doubters, with only 8% of the respondents reporting that they had heard of the genocide and believed descriptions of it were accurate. Now, let's not pass over that too quickly. In the Middle East and North Africa, so we're talking about Arabs. Middle East, North Africa, we're talking about Arabs. Only 8% of the respondents reporting that they had heard of the genocide and that they believed it. So only 8% of those who responded in this area of the world, most likely Arabs, had actually heard of the Holocaust and they believed in it. That means the other vast majority either never heard of they have no knowledge of the Holocaust, they never heard of the Holocaust, or they heard of the Holocaust, but they don't believe the certain facts about the Holocaust. But only 12% of respondents in sub-Saharan Africa said the same. So 12% in sub-Saharan Africa. And only 23% in Asia. That's still a significant group of people in Asia. People in these groups were likely to say they believe the number of deaths has been extravagated. Just over a half of Middle Easterners and a third of Asians and Africans think the body count has been distorted over time. When the data is sliced by a religious group, results are even more surprising. Okay, here's the proof for the Islamophobes, right? Here's the damaging proof that the Islamophobes are looking for, so they can justify their hatred of Islam, and they can justify their ideology, that their belief that ISIS and Al Qaeda have the correct understanding of Islam, that their belief that Islam is a radical, violent religion, and one of their proofs is that so many Muslims deny the Holocaust. Here's the proof from the ADL, right? When the data is sliced by religious groups, the results are even more surprising. Hindus were more likely to believe that the number of Holocaust deaths have been extravagated. Was that a typo? Because I think they should have said Muslims, correct? No, it said Hindus. So when it comes to breaking the statistics down by religion, the major group, religious group that denies the Holocaust is Hindus. So if we're following the logic of Islamophobes, Salman Rushdie gets stabbed. That means Islam is still a radical, supremacist, inherently violent religion. And the proof that it's an inherently violent religion is that so many Muslims deny the Holocaust. So the equation is that denying the Holocaust makes you a radical individual from a radical religion, and that explains why Salman Rushdie got stabbed. But the ADL says the religious group that denies the Holocaust the most is Hindus. So does that logic apply to Hindus also? If Hindus are the biggest religious group that deny the Holocaust, doesn't that mean Hindus are inherently violent? Would that mean that Hindus have the Hindu religion is inherently a supremacist? It is inherently violent. It's inherently hateful. I haven't seen any Islamophobes. I haven't seen any Hindophobes. No, forget Islamophobes. I haven't seen any Hindophobic content being made by right-wing, alt-right conservatives, Christian nationalists. I think you need to change your content if we're going to go by the ADL. And I think the ADL would know what they're talking about. Wouldn't you think they know what they're talking about? Okay, let's go on. Muslims follow closely. Okay, Muslims follow closely. Those two groups were distinctively trailed by Christians. Distantly trailed by Christians. I'm sorry. Buddhists and those with no religion. So you got Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, no religion. In no coincidence, Hindus and Muslims were significantly less likely to have heard of the Holocaust. That's an important point, because it's not just, you can't just throw out a statistic. You can't just throw out a statistic to people. You have to dive deep. And that's one of the problems with Islamophobia. That's one of the problems with Islamophobic authors and writers and people in the media. And whether they're grifters or they're actual established authors with publishing deals, or who have written for the New York Times, like the author of the article I was talking about in the beginning of this broadcast. You just can't throw out a statistic without diving deep, going behind the numbers. See, because you can play games with studies. I can take a study and I can take a small fraction of what the study says, and I can cite that to my audience to make them believe what I'm pitching to them. So if I'm an Islamophobe and I want to prove that Muslims are violent people, hateful people, and Islam is a inherently violent, dangerous religion, I can just say, man, all these Muslims deny the Holocaust. But I'm not telling you why the Muslims are denying the Holocaust. I'm making the connection so that you, the audience member, will believe the reason so many Muslims in certain parts of the world deny the Holocaust is because they're Muslims. The reasons why is because they're Muslims, and that's just how Muslims are. It's because of that Islam religion. It's so hateful and evil and so violent. Of course they deny the Holocaust, but that's not what the ADL says. And I think the ADL knows what they're talking about. Now, the author who's citing the ADL is going to get into why there's so many Muslims and Hindus who deny the Holocaust. Let's talk about Hindus and Muslims were significantly less likely to have heard of the Holocaust. Could it be, Islamophobe, that the reason why there may be Muslim immigrants coming from parts of the Muslim world coming into Europe who actually may deny the Holocaust, or who may deny certain aspects about the history of the Holocaust, is because they're ignorant. They come from a third world nation and they didn't receive an education. They weren't educated about the subject. Could that be the reason? No, it has to be because they're Muslims. It has to be because Islam is such a hateful, violent religion. But the ADL doesn't agree with you. In almost every religious group, people younger than 65 were much more likely to say they believe the facts about the Holocaust have been distorted, and they were less likely to know what the Holocaust is. So the author is citing the reasons for this. Number one, lack of knowledge. Now they're saying people under 65 were more likely to deny the Holocaust or deny the certain aspects of the Holocaust. So now they're blaming age. Yes, it's 2022. Millennials and Generation Z know less about the Holocaust than somebody in from my age, 45. And Gen Zers and millennials probably know less about it, and I probably know less than the people who actually lived through that time, who were alive when World War II happened, or who live closer to that time period. Just like I'm an African American. People, young people nowadays know probably less about Jim Crow and slavery and the black codes and the KKK and different things that happen in history in America than older generations who live maybe closer to the time that those things took place. So it's knowledge, it's age. We go on. Percent who have heard of the Holocaust. It shows a graph of different people, the percentage of people who heard about the Holocaust, and significantly, Hindus know less about the Holocaust, and Muslims know less about the Holocaust, and that happens to be the two dominant groups of people who deny the Holocaust. And non-religious people and Christians know more about the Holocaust and are more knowledgeable about it, and there's significantly less people who deny it. So why Islamophobes are you hiding this information? Number one. Why Islamophobes are you quoting studies and statistics that you obviously don't understand, that you obviously did not read in your totality, or is it that you're just lying? Which one is it? Now let's go on. The report by the ADL, a Jewish non-government organization that campaigns against anti-Semitism and discrimination, also covers the prevalence of other anti-Semitic attitudes, including beliefs about Jews, allegiance to Israel, influence in the media, business, and likability. Although the prevalence of Holocaust ignorance and denial was just one small aspect of the survey, it illuminates a powerful fact. As the memory of the genocide grows fainter, attitudes towards Jews in Israel are changing. The fate of the Jewish people in the 20th century was largely centered around the Holocaust and anti-Semitism that facilitated it and lost it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So basically it's saying the further we get away from the time of the Holocaust, the more ignorant people are of it. The majority of people on earth don't know anything about the Holocaust. Thus, they deny the Holocaust. Now, there's one last graph. There's one last graph that I want people to know about, and I want the Islamophobes to know about also. Desperately, the study does hint at the why. And listen to this. Desperately, the study does hint at why most people get. I'm sorry. The study hints at where most people get their information about Jews and the Holocaust from today. Now, and it's a graph showing where the majority of the people in the world get their information about the Holocaust. The number one, according to the survey done by the ADO, is television. The number one is television. What's not okay? Islam wasn't number one; it was television. So Islam has to be number two, right? Islamophobe. Number two is the internet, not Islam, not the Quran, not Hadith, not Islamic preachers, not the masjid. Number three is newspapers. Number four is other people. And at 3% of 3% of the people who responded to the survey, 3%, 3%, religious leaders. And that percentage is the same percentage as people who say they got their information about the Holocaust from radio, which is 3%. So in the mind of the people who responded to the survey, over 50,000 people across 100 countries, is that the Islamophobe cite to say that to prove that Islam is an inherently evil, hateful, violent religion because so many Muslims deny the Holocaust. The percentage of people who said they got their information about the Holocaust from religious leaders is the same as people who said they got their information from radio. When's the last time you listened to radio? Y'all listen, y'all watching me on the internet right now, social media. You don't even listen to the radio. People when I get in my car, I don't even listen to the radio. I'm listening. I have my phone going. I have videos playing in the background, or I have an audio book playing in the background. So yes, there are a lot of people in the world who deny the Holocaust, not just Muslims. The number one group are Hindus. And yes, there's a significant group of Muslims, mainly from Arab countries. I hate to break this to you, Islamophobes. Arab countries does not equal Islam. The Middle East and North Africa does not equal the religion of Islam. Just because there's a significant group, a number of people in the Middle East and North Africa who may deny the Holocaust, that does not equal Islam denies the Holocaust. Because people in Malaysia just put up it's a news story that you can find on the internet. Malaysia just created a Holocaust memorial. Albania created a Holocaust memorial because for the Albanian Muslims who helped Jews escape the Christian Nazis. And I'm sure somebody will say, well, they're not real. They weren't real Christians. How can you say that? Notice how there's always an excuse. There's never an excuse for the evil somebody does in the name of Islam. There's never an excuse. There's never any excuse of somebody being a lone wolf. There's never an excuse of somebody being insane or having a mental health breakdown. There's never an excuse that somebody has a distorted interpretation of Islam. There's never an excuse that a person is really a hypocrite. They're really not a real Muslim. But there's always an excuse when a person who's Christian or someone who claims to be Christian or somebody does something in the name of Christianity or a European does something. There's always an excuse for why. That has nothing to do with secularism or humanism. It has nothing to do with Christianity. But the same logic is never applied to Islam. Why? Because Islamophobes hate Islam and they hate Muslims. That's what Islamophobia is about. It's about the emotion of hatred, and the emotion of hatred has been systematized into a ideology. So now you have an ideology of hatred of Muslims. Right on time. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الصلاة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الفلاح. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الفلاح. لا حول ولا قوة. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. You can hate Muslims all you like, and you can hate Muslims all you like, and you can hate Muslims as much as you want to. Muslims are not going anywhere. Muslims are multiplying. You can hate Islam with the pit of your stomach. Islam is not going anywhere. Islam is growing by the day. More and more people take their shahada. More and more Muslim babies are born. Instead of fighting this losing battle of trying to demonize Muslims and trying to recruit people to your hate-filled ideology, you need to come to your senses. And you need to, first of all, I invite you to Al-Islam. I was an Islamophobe at one time in my life. I was an ex-Muslim, just like Salman Rushdie, and I returned to Al-Islam. So if that's your story, I invite you to return to Al-Islam. If not, I invite you to come to Al-Islam, to learn about real Islam, to meet Muslim people. People are people. Human beings are human beings. Any group, if you have a mass group of people, you're going to have a whole lot of good people, and you're going to have some bad apples. That's just how it is. That's not a Muslim issue. That's a human issue. Let me repeat that. That's not a Muslim issue. That's a human issue. And there may be things about Al-Islam that you don't understand, that seem strange to you, that may even you don't like. I invite you to seek truth and to continue seeking truth and to go beyond a surface level. In fact, go beyond YouTube. I'm glad that you're watching this video, but you need to go beyond this video. I'm not a scholar of Al-Islam. I'm not an imam. There's only so much information I can give you. There's only so much I can tell you. This video is only to remove the doubts, to remove the things that block people from learning about Al-Islam. And inshallah, by the power of Allah, I hope that it's done its job. But you need to research further. You need to learn about Al-Islam further. In fact, I invite you to come see the Muslims. Come watch the Muslims pray. Come see the Muslims worship. Come sit down and eat with the Muslims and drink coffee and tea with the Muslims. You'll find that most Muslims are good people, upright people, devout people. Is it a chance you might run into a bad apple, a person with a bad attitude, somebody who has maybe some bad beliefs? Yeah. Just like if I go out and explore Christianity, I might run into people who don't have the historical Orthodox Christian faith. They may have some heretical ideas. I might run into some racist Christians. I might run into some bad apples. The same thing can happen if you come around Muslims. But Al-Islam is perfect. People aren't perfect. Al-Islam is perfect. Al-Islam does not teach wanton violence. Al-Islam does not teach to go stabbing people for writing books. Al-Islam doesn't teach people to be lone wolves or to be vigilantes. Al-Islam doesn't teach people to deny the Holocaust. Al-Islam doesn't teach any of these things. I proved to you from the ADL. Yes, the statistic may be true that there are large groups of Muslims, especially from certain pockets of the Muslim world, not the whole entire Muslim world, because the Middle East is not the whole entire Muslim world. It represents a minority in Islam, actually. The Middle East it represents a minority. The largest Muslim countries, the countries that have the largest Muslim populations are Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria. See, you may have been sold incorrect information about Muslims and Islam. And again, I challenge you to educate yourself beyond a surface level. Drop the hate. Drop the hatred. How can you say you are a follower of Jesus, peace be upon him, and hate people or hate someone's religion? If you are just non religion, if you are a humanitarian, you're a humanist, how can you be a humanitarian and a humanist and you hate Muslims? Or you hold discriminatory ideas about Muslims, or you prejudge Muslims? That's all I got to say. Alhamdulillah. I thank you very much for tuning in and watching this live stream, or if you're watching it during the replay. I hope you got something out of it. If I said anything incorrect or wrong, that's my fault. If I said anything correct, all praises are due to Allah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Peace be upon those who accept the guidance.